No, it's snow everywhere.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It Came From the Page. And yes, if you couldn't tell by the cold open, there's snow. We're stuck with snow. Winter has already come to Regina, which is Saskatchewan, which is where I live in Canada. The Great White North, as it's called. So Halloween is ruined because there's snow everywhere, and it has kind of dampened my Halloween spirit. This is why I start celebrating Halloween in August, middle of August, so I have the maximum amount to enjoy the season before Old Man Winter comes in and ruins everything. Even though my autumnal seasons and enjoyments have been ruined, it doesn't mean my horror enjoyment can't be ruined, because there are a number of great horror books that I picked up over the last year or two that are set in the snow, and these are what I'm going to be talking about today. These are books that I plan to read, and you could also read, that bring you the joy of the wintry season, but also gives you a little bit of a stabby stab. Or, I don't know, clawy claw, depending on which one of these you're reading. Now, I try to mainly stay away from Christmas-specific things, because in December, I'm going to have specific books that I kind of want to read for that holiday. But there is one that's kind of cheating. But let's just get into it. These are 10 Winterset horror books that I plan to read during the winter months. First off, let's start with a book with a wonderful step-back cover. I don't know why they don't do these anymore. This is Predators by Eric Sauter. If I mispronounced that, my apologies. And this looks like, as far as I can tell, it is kind of like, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of wolves. They're hanging out in the tundra. There's a man with a gun. There's a lady who has yellow eyes, so she's probably a werewolf. It began in the windswept Canadian tundra, a hunting party led by a man of unique cruelty. A pack of wolves slaughtered, a man and a wolf survivors. It turned into an odyssey of vengeance in the seething jungle of the city. Somewhere in the night, with the woman who shares their obsession, Dane and the wolf are stalking the man who hunted them. The man who thirsts to fight them to the limits of human savagery. A string of mutilation murders has shocked New York City. Now nothing will stop the killing. The Black Wolf has tasted blood, and the final hunt begins. So, I don't know if this takes place in winter throughout the entire thing, especially because it just mentions it starts the winter, but, I thought it would be at least a good transition from October to November as far as winter goes, so there's that. We have another Bigfoot book. This is The Beast by Walter J. Sheldon. And, this is a Bigfoot book because literally the back says, Bigfoot lives. There had been sightings before, but this was proof. A giant molar taken from a skeleton decaying high in the northwest wilderness. It wasn't as much evidence as anthropologist Zia Marlowe wanted, but it was enough to get financing for an expedition. One that could prove once and for all that Bigfoot did exist. Hell yeah. I hope Bigfoot destroys a bunch of people. I love reading about Bigfoot. I love Winterset Bigfoot stories. Hello. Next up, we have Carnivore by Lee Clark. This one is very simple. It's set in the Arctic, and they clone a dinosaur. They clone a, I believe it's an Allosaurus. Let me take a list. No, it's not an Allosaurus. It's the T-Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex, bitch. He's back, and he's in the winter. And, everyone who knows anything about dinosaurs knows that, I don't know how any of this works, because dinosaurs definitely could not have survived in the Arctic. But who cares? It's a dinosaur in the snow eating like researchers. I'm probably going to start this book tonight. This book sounds rad. Yeah. Hell yeah. Next up, this is the newer one. This is a newer one, and this is one where I've actually seen the the movie adaptation. This is No Exit, and by Taylor Adams. I guess, this is probably like in that realm of thriller horror. Like, it's like right in that realm between the two. I've seen the movie. The movie is really good, actually, and really interesting. And this is basically, this woman gets like stranded during a blizzard, and they're all kind of at this service station, and she meets a whole bunch of groups of people, and one of them has a dark secret. So it's one of those like really tense thrillers that's all set in one location. There is interesting characters abound, at least from the movie's perspective. I'm not sure how that will be in terms of the book. It is very funny. Last year I almost read the book, but instead I picked out from one of my winter reads, Five Total Strangers. That book was not good. It had a very kind of similar-ish plot, but it was not good. I did not like that book at all. So I am very excited to actually get to a good version of that story, which is, from everything I've heard, No Exit by Taylor Adams will in fact be one of those. Next up, one of the ones that I just think is one of the coolest covers ever. This is Blizzard by Michael C. Norton. I mean, it's so cool. It's such a cool cover. I am just like obsessed with this cover. This is the one that kind of cheats because it is set like at Christmas. So here's the thing for this one. Inside the house, a group of childhood friends gathered for a little Christmas party, bringing with them long smoldering passions as well as presents. Outside, the snow began to pile up, trapping them in the worst blizzard in memory. A howling, frigid hell no human could survive. But what lurked in the storm was not human. It was a mutant thing, with a ravenous appetite for human flesh and an insatiable thirst for hot, rich blood. Ah! Hell yeah, the blizzard. I mean, it just says they're having a Christmas party. Maybe they're having a Christmas party in November. It doesn't have to be Christmas. Yeah? I could have a Christmas party now. Some people do that. Bad people, but there are people who try to eliminate Halloween and just instantly start celebrating Christmas. Maybe that's what these guys are doing, and that's why this monster shows up, because the monster's like, yo, bitch, it's Halloween. You can't be doing that. So yeah, that's the one that's cheap. But anyways, next up, this is one I've seen quite a few people read. I've heard like pretty good things about it, and this is Maynards House by... I know I'm going to say that wrong, so just... yeah, that's the man's name there. This person also wrote Summer of 42, which has a connection to a Winterset horror film, because in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, they are actually watching, at one point they are watching the VHS for Summer of 42, the film version. So, I don't know, maybe he like saw The Shining and was like, hey, that inspires me to write a book about things that happen in the snow. And here's the description for this one. For Austin Fletcher, any place was paradise after Vietnam. Even the ancient house in the frozen Maine wilderness, left to him by his slain buddy, Maynard Whittier. Even with the loneliness and the cold. But this was a different kind of cold. It was worse than the cold of winter. It was even worse than the cold of death. It was the soul-chilling cold of an evil, unimaginable awakening after centuries to welcome him and make its terrible claim. Ah! Oh no! What's gonna happen? This one has some embossing on the cover, so you can just like, oh, it's so nice. I like the embossing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. This is one of those classic Winterset horror books. I think this is a paperback from hell, maybe. Like, I think I first heard that in the Paperbacks from Hell, or somebody hauled it in one of those videos. Who knows? Next up, we got a novelization, bro. This is the novelization for 30 Days of Night, which is a vampire movie that is set in Alaska. Yes, it's set in Alaska during that portion of the year where there is no light and it's like all nighttime. This is a I like the movie. I think I like 30 Days of Night. It's been a very long time since I've watched the actual movie. And for those of you who don't know, this is kind of an interesting little oddity as a book because 30 Days of Night itself is an adaptation. So 30 Days of Night, the movie, is an adaptation of a comic book series. So this is the novelization of a film that is an adaptation of something else. So, that's so many little layers of weirdness to add to this. So, had to put this in the collection. Next up, oh no, it's Nazi vampires in the snow. Darkness on the Ice. Also embossed. Oh my goodness, this one feels so good. Like, it feels like such a cool embossing man. And you're like, pretty embossing. Wolf, a Nazi SS officer, had an innate talent and thirst for killing. As he sliced the throats of enemy sentries, his strength and stealth allowed him to drain and drink their warm blood with ease. Now his new assignment at a Nazi weather station in the Arctic left Wolf basking in the darkness of the winter days. Yet a need for blood consumed him, and with a scarcity of enemies, Wolf would have to make some desperate choices. 2 weather groups had already been taken prisoner by the U.S. Coast Guard, and Luftwaffe captain Martin Diedrich was glad to see Wolf arrive at his Greenland weather station. Yet there was something sinister about the SS officer, other than the fact that he was a fucking SS officer? Okay. Something that reeked with death. Oh, so that reeked of death and terror. And when his men started to disappear, Diedrich sensed a waking nightmare was about to begin. Oh. So, this is going to be a bunch of Nazis being killed by another Nazi, but the Nazi's a vampire? Hell yeah. Fuck all Nazis. I want them to be all eaten. And then I hope one of the U.S. Coast Guard just shows up and just stakes the little bitch. He eats all the Nazis, bam. U.S. Coast Guard shows up, bam. Stakes the bitch, no more Nazis. That's how World War II went, if you don't know. That's like that's what really happened. Don't look it up, but I'm telling you the truth. Definitely no hyperbole. They were Nazi vampires, and then the U.S. Coast Guard saved the day. Next up, Demon Shadows by Michael B. Sirota. This one also embossed. Our Skelly boy here is embossed. Even the pentagram is embossed. Ooh, another one that's very nice to feel. What's this one about, you ask? The brochure for the Thornburn Colony promised a quiet artist retreat where Paul Fleming should write unhampered by the influences of the outside world. A stubborn case of writer's block and an unhappy divorce had made these last months hell. But Paul didn't know what hell was until he felt a stinging cold that wasn't the normal chill of the Sierra dawn. Until he heard the wind rise in tormented cries as something dark and tinged with desperation beckoned to him. Until he found John Thornburn's diary and discovered the anguish of his band of prisoners. Band of pioneers. For hell was the ordeal of the Thornburn party, and hell is the timeless horror that lies ravenous, waiting for Paul and his fellow artists, anxious to collect on an old debt in flesh and blood. Skelly Boys in the Snow. I love Skelly Boys. I love the snow. Who could not love Skelly Boys in the Snow? Woo! And last but certainly not least is the novelization for The Thing. This is the first edition of Alan Dean Foster's novelization for the amazing film The Thing, which is the John Carpenter film. And I started reading this last year, and I just didn't finish it. Not because I didn't like it, but I just only got a few pages in and just had to read something else. I think there was like a reading event going on or something, and I was like, oh, I'm only a few pages into this, so I'll put this down and read this later. What I read, though, I absolutely adored. Like, I really, really liked it. I really like Alan Dean Foster as a writer. Really, really excited for this. This is one of those novelizations that is very hard to find nowadays. Although, it's one of those novelizations where I think it's probably overpriced online because there were multiple printings of this. Like, I've seen quite a few different covers for the thing. Just in my city alone, I've actually found 2 of these. So I found this, and then I found another novelization of the thing that I actually sent to Michael K. Vaughan. So I don't know if the price people are asking is fair for this online, because this is one of those things that people charge like $90 online for. I just don't think that's very sensible, especially when I was able to find 2 copies of this in this little podunk city I live in. So I don't think this book is as rare as people make it out to be. Don't give up hope if you haven't found this. They're always talking about doing more things with the thing. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what that is, like what else they're going to do with the thing. Because I think there's going to be another version of it that's kind of like got the sign off by John Carpenter, but it's by Blumhouse, so it's very questionable about whether it'll be any good. We'll see. I love the thing. So far, from what I've read, I love this novelization of the thing. Look at how pretty it is. Oh my, I love it so much. Yes, so that's today's video. What are you guys going to be reading that has anything even remotely to do with winter? Are you someone like me who, once the winter hits, you really want to read things that are cold and desolate and just... Oh... I remember once, one of my greatest reading experiences ever was I was working at a place in Calgary, and Calgary has like -40 winters. Like, it's got cold winters. Celsius, I don't deal with that. Fahrenheit. But during my walk there, I had like I could have got the bus, but I walked to work, and it was about like an hour and a half. So each day of the winter, I would listen to an hour and a half of Dan Simmons' The Terror while going back and from work in -40 weather. And let me tell you, there's no better sense of immersion than listening to a book about like people dying in the Arctic than like actually living it as you're walking it. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else is that way or if anyone else is as crazy as I would. I can't do that nowadays. Oh my goodness! After the stroke, I don't get around in winter very much at all because I walk with a cane everywhere, and it's just bad. It's bad for the cane. But anyways, I hope you guys are having a good day, and yeah, just let me know what you guys are reading for the winter horror celebration. Goodbye.